It's the dead of winter here in British Columbia, Canada, but I've just picked up this brand new 2024 Husqvarna FE350s. Today we're going to get this thing ready to rock for this year's riding season. Now, as I'm sure most of you know, this is a dual sport motorcycle that is street legal pretty much everywhere in the world. However, with street legality comes the compromise that this bike is somewhat corked up, meaning that it's not tapping into the full potential of power that it's capable of producing straight out of the factory. Today I'm going to walk you through everything I'm doing to it, from increasing the horsepower, changing out the gearing and tires, adding some necessary protection, and fine-tuning the suspension for my riding style. So stick around, I hope you get some ideas for your bike, and let's get into it. Let's start with the big ticket item, horsepower. From the factory, this bike produces 32.4 horse, which is not bad, but with a few quick mods, we can bump that number up to somewhere in the neighborhood of 50. This is a massive jump, and it's going to greatly improve the power and responsiveness of this bike. This process is what's famously known as uncorking, and it involves 3 simple steps. But here's the deal, you gotta do all 3 steps at the same time. Skipping any one of them risks damaging your engine. To make this work, we'll need a few specific parts. I'll walk you through each one as we go, but I've also created a PDF that I've got linked in the description that lists what I bought, where I got it from, and how I installed it on my bike. Everything in this video was purchased with my own money at full price. Nothing was sponsored or gifted. Step 1 is removing the reeds from the airbox. These reeds were designed for 2-stroke engines and restrict how much air can flow into the motor. They sit just behind the air filter, so start by prying out the black frame on top. With a set of pliers, gently pull until the whole assembly comes out. You can tell just by looking at it how much airflow these reeds were restricting. I'll replace it with this aluminum intake tube, which will increase the velocity of air going into the engine. Simply slide it into place and reinstall your air filter. Next, let's deal with this bike's exhaust. Now, I could have bought a brand new slip-on exhaust, but instead, I went with an aftermarket end cap that has a larger opening. It was way cheaper and keeps the stock look. To swap it out, I removed the screws and then tapped around the end cap with a small screwdriver to loosen it up. This took a surprisingly long time as it's quite wedged in there and the packing goes all the way into the end cap. My advice is to be patient and avoid prying against the cam. It's really thin aluminum and bends easily. I ended up using a block of wood and a hammer to finally get this thing off. After that, I installed the spark arrestor in the new end cap. This is a super important piece. Here in British Columbia, wildfires are a massive problem, and having one of these reduces the risk of this bike starting one. Now, compare the 2 end caps side by side, and you can see just how much better this new one can breathe. Installing it was much easier. I just slid it in, tightened the screws, and this thing is good to go. Okay, so far we've increased the air coming into the engine, and we've improved the airflow exiting the engine. The final piece of the puzzle is to deal with this bike's ECU to adjust the fueling to match. Now, there are a couple options I could have done here. Could have bought a brand new ECU for about $1,000, or I could have got a fuel tuner to adjust the fueling myself. But what I chose to do is have the factory ECU reflashed. Process was really simple. You just unplug the ECU, package it up, mail it off, and they send it back to you reflashed with 2 maps, both with traction control if you want it. Alright folks, there you have it. This bike is officially uncorked. In my opinion, these are all key performance modifications if you want to get the most out of your dirt bike. However, there's a few extra things that we're going to do that will take this thing to the next level. Next up is a new exhaust manifold. This updated design improves exhaust flow and boosts bottom end power and throttle response. I couldn't find my spring tool, so I just bent a nail into a hook and used some vice grips to remove the exhaust springs. Once the springs and bolts are off, remove the header and the old manifold, swap the gasket, and install the new one. It's a bit of a tight fit, so a little grease helps it slide in easily. Then reattach everything and reinstall the springs. My next mission is to improve the fueling system on this bike. The 350s are known for stalling and flameouts, so I've got a few things that will hopefully address that. First, I'm going to remove the stock fuel rail. It sits at the back of the engine attached to the throttle body. The stock one has a sharp angle that makes it hard for fuel to flow smoothly into the engine. I'm swapping it out for this machined aluminum rail. It's got a much less exaggerated angle, allowing fuel to flow more efficiently into the engine. This means easier starts, snappier acceleration, and fewer flameouts. Once installed, the engine's fuel delivery system is just way more efficient overall. The last piece of the fueling system that I'm going to upgrade is the fuel filter. The stock filters on these bikes are really small and they can get clogged easily. I'm going to replace it with a large diameter filter. This one also has a quick release on the tank side, so I don't have to pull the filter apart every time I want to take the tank off. This eliminates the risk of having dirt and other junk fall into the filter whenever I have it apart. The new hose is a bit long, so I measure where I want it and then cut it with a knife. Once I've got my fuel line routed the way I want and attached to the fuel tank, I tucked it behind the engine mount to keep it out of the way and safe from getting hit if I tip the bike over. I love how clean and out of the way this filter is now. Finally, I'm going to de-smog this bike. Now it's important to note that this does not add any power or performance and will most likely render your bike not legal for road use wherever you live, but the reason to do this is to eliminate several potential failure points that could cause engine issues down the road. It also gets rid of a whole mess of hoses, valves, and plastic canisters that are vulnerable to damage in a crash. With this last piece out, this bike is officially de-smogged. Just look at all these hoses and random bits and bobs that don't actually need to be on the bike for it to run properly. Alright, it's time to worry about protection. Now these bikes are built pretty tough, no doubt, but in my opinion it's better to spend a couple bucks protecting the key components rather than having to replace things when you end up smashing it on the trail. The most critical item for these bikes is a linkage protector plate. The linkage hangs down pretty low on these Huskies, and unless you plan to never go over a log or a rock, I would say this is a must-have. It's a bit wild that this isn't included from the factory, but it's cheap and easy to install and bolts right onto the factory skid plate. You really don't want your linkage smashing into things, so this little piece of protection helps the bike glide smoothly over obstacles. Next, I'm adding rotor guards to both the front and rear discs to help keep them from getting smashed or bent. If you do any sort of moderately hard trail riding, I would recommend adding these as well. Now, I wanted to save a few bucks and I ordered a knockoff brand, but it turns out it doesn't fit where it needs to on my brake caliper. I've seen other people run into this issue with the name brand ones, but I think with some tools and determination, I can make this one fit. This would have been a lot easier with an angle grinder, but I'm in the business of working with the tools you have, so I'm going to use my reciprocating saw, a multi-tool, and some files. It was actually comical how much metal I had to shave off either side of this thing to make it fit. So if you don't want to be like me and spend your entire evening cutting and filing to make this stupid piece work, just spend extra money and get the proper one. Just remember that these are specific to your brake caliper, not the bike, so do a bit of research before you buy one. I'll still put the link for this one in my PDF as it was only $25 and it's made out of billet aluminum, so if you don't mind doing a little fabricating, this is a great way to save some money for a relatively simple thing. Eventually, I got enough metal shaved off to make it fit into my caliper. Not my prettiest work, but thankfully all the areas I cut will be hidden behind the swing arm. The front went on much smoother. It's also a knockoff, and I was a little worried that this design would have it free floating, but it's super solid when it's on there. You do have to remove the wheel spacer as this comes with the spacer installed, but it works perfectly and looks so much better than those giant plastic ones. Up next on the bench, I'm installing radiator guards. These fins are pretty vulnerable, and the last thing you want is a rock or a stick punching a hole through your radiator. The bike does come with these plastic guards, but I prefer having some metal to cover the front. In my opinion, all of the above are necessary protection components if you plan to do any sort of technical trail riding. All of this protection cost me about 220 Canadian, which is only around 150 USD. It may not be top of the line, but it should get the job done just fine. Links for everything are included in my free PDF in the description. Alright, I've got a few extra components going on this bike. These aren't essential, but for a little extra money, they'll help keep this bike in top shape for many years to come. First up is handlebar wraps. I prefer these over the flag style guards that come stock. They add a little more protection to the handlebars and levers and make it easier to lean the bike up against trees. These are also knockoffs, so we'll see how well they hold up, but I do like the look of them, and I think a little added protection is better than nothing. On the rear, I'm throwing on plastic swing arm guards. The swing arm takes a beating, and this extra layer keeps it safe from damage. These ones mount with zip ties, but we all know how long those last, so I'm using some self-tapping screws near the front of the guard to hold them in place. Just make sure you slide the swing arm guard all the way forward so it clips behind before you put the screws in. Lastly, I ordered a new plastics kit. Now there are two reasons for this. Number one is the resale value. Keeping the original plastics in mint condition is huge. When it's time to sell, I'll swap the originals back on, and this will look like a brand new bike. I already scratched one of the fairings during my first ride, so if you're buying a brand new bike and planning to swap the plastics, don't be like me and run it up a creek bed first thing. Buy the plastics, they're not that much money, and put them on immediately. Keep the originals safely tucked away for when it's time to sell. Okay, so while we have all the plastics off, we're gonna use this time to paint a few of the parts that aren't black and that don't come in the new plastics kit. So we've got this highlighter yellow section underneath the seat. Same with the headlight mask. The frame guards are blue. We've got these red rings around the fork seals. And even the engine mounts, we're gonna paint those too. Now, I know some of you are thinking, Adam, don't paint your dirt bike. It's gonna chip, it's gonna look like shit. But I've had success painting some of these components on other bikes, and I'm feeling pretty confident that with some solid prep and the right type of paint, this is gonna look great. So let's get to it. For the engine mounts, I sanded them down with 400 grit sandpaper and used regular black spray paint. For the frame guards, I went with Plasti-Dip. To paint the bolts, I drilled holes into a box to hold them upright so I could spray just the heads without getting paint onto the threads. I also wrapped the rest of the bike in bubble wrap to keep overspray off everything else. Under the seat, I cleaned and lightly sanded the area and then used black spray paint. It turned out great, but later I realized the graphics kit I ordered actually covered that area, so it wasn't really necessary. I used Plasti-Dip for the headlight mask and the fork seal rings as well. Everything I painted got several layers to make it thicker and more durable. If you're going to try this, just make sure you cut along the tape edge with a knife before peeling off anything that you Plasti-Dip. Otherwise, you'll lift the paint. Alright, now that we've got everything painted, it's time to talk about the second reason I got new plastics for this bike. And you've probably already guessed it, and that's the aesthetics. I love a murdered out bike. Husky did a good job on this year's color scheme, but they're not paying me to ride this thing, so I'm turning it into a black stallion. I ordered some matte black stickers to go on these plastics, and I'm gonna use the wet method to put them on. So I spray some soapy water on both the plastics and the sticker side, and then use heat and a squeegee to press out the water. This method is way easier to get everything aligned compared to trying to stick them on dry. Highly recommend if you're doing your own graphics. With the new plastics on and all the black protection, this thing is looking sick. You know what? Let's finish this thing up before I show it off.
If I could only do one thing to this bike, it would be to upgrade the tires and gearing. It came with TKC 80s, which are a great dual sport tire, but since I'm setting this up as an off-road weapon, I wanted something more aggressive. So the TKCs are coming off and they're going on my KTM 500, and this 350 is getting a new setup. For the front, I'm running a Shinko 216 MX, and for the rear, a Montage Tractionator Desert HT. I'm also trying the Tubliss system in the rear for the first time. Installing it takes a few extra steps, like drilling a hole in the rim and taping it up in a certain way, but there are plenty of great videos showing the process, so I won't go into too much detail here. It was a bit of a chore to get on, but once I figured it out, it went fine. Same story mounting the tire onto the rim with the Tubliss setup installed. Just take your time. Sitting on the tire helps press the rim into the center channel so it goes on easier. I've done it again since and it went much smoother the second time. Up front, I'm running a heavy duty tube, but eventually I'll probably go tubeless here as well. Now, there are tons of great tire options out there, so do some research and find a combo that suits the type of riding that you want to do the most of. And honestly, if your garage doesn't look like a crime scene when you're done changing tires, did you even do it right? With the new tires on, it's worth balancing them. It doesn't take long. I'm just using some jack stands and a piece of pipe that fits through the wheel to let it spin freely. Mark where it stops and then add weights to the opposite side of the heavy spot, which is usually opposite of the rim lock. This should hopefully make the short sections of road that I ride on to get to the trail feel much smoother. The only change that I'm going to make to the gearing initially is dropping one tooth in the front from a 14 to a 13. However, in doing this, I'll need to shorten the chain so the wheel isn't sitting at the very back of the swing arm. For some reason, the master link on this chain was impossible to remove, so I ended up cutting it off with a Dremel. Just make sure you're wearing eye protection if you do this, unlike me. Once I had the original master link removed, I shortened the chain by 2 links and installed a new master link, and this gearing is wrapped up. Next, I'm doing a complete overhaul on the bike's front dash. Now there's a lot to go over here, so if enough of you request it, I'll cover it in a separate video, but the main goal is to clean everything up. I'm adding this dash kit so I can relocate the key from the terrible location on the side, and I'll remove the clunky light and signal switch from the handlebars and use toggle switches on the dash instead. This will also allow me to have a headlight off position while the bike is running in case I want to go stealth. On the other side, I'm changing out the awful start and kill switch, and I'll replace it with individual start and stop buttons. I use my phone as a GPS, so I'm going to switch out the handlebar mount for 2 individual ones so my quad lock can sit directly in the middle, keeping everything nice, clean, and organized. The dash kit has a spot for a USB charger, so I'm going to install one of those as well, which will allow me to keep my phone charged whenever I'm using it for navigation. I'll be wiring in a secret kill switch so the bike can't be hot wired, and replacing the signals with these LED strip lights right on the headlight mask. The only thing I don't have is a mirror to replace the dorky stock ones, but honestly I'll be on pavement so rarely that I might not even bother. Alright, just a few finishing touches to wrap up. First up, painting the handlebars. Sorry Pro Taper, no free advertising on this bike. I'll paint the throttle housing while I'm at it so everything matches. Next, the brutal stock license plate holder has to go. I'm replacing it with this tidy taillight that has the turn signals built right in. This is a much sleeker design and no more bulky signals sticking off the sides. There's a few more bolts that I'm going to paint black so they match the rest of the engine. Anything sitting on black casing, I'll paint to keep it consistent. I'm also adding upper fork wraps for protection and to keep the blacked out look going. Down below, I've got removable lower fork wraps, plus these custom 3D printed cable mounts. This drops the brake line loop lower like the rally bikes and keeps that cable from bouncing around on the dash. Next up is a low seat. This one is 15 millimeters lower, which is just enough to make it easier to get both my feet on the ground. I'm also installing a tail rack. This is perfect for strapping some extra fuel or camping gear to the bike, and I love how low profile it is. For the license plate, I picked up a new holder, but I'm adding some magnets to the back of it. This way I can pop the plate on and off really quick. The magnet's attached to a metal backing plate, and I've got safety cables that'll wrap around to the back side. I'm also adding a rear tug strap. This makes moving the bike around way easier. Finally, I'll add in this black exhaust guard to finish the look. I'll peel off the stickers, toss the extras, set the sag, give this thing a quick spray, and this bike is ready to go. Alright, the last piece of the puzzle is, we've got to get this thing up the stairs. I don't have a garage, so this whole build's been happening down in my basement, and it's been so nice working on it down here. But my buddy Dill is over today, so we're going to carry it up, get it outside, and finally show this thing off to you guys. This has been such a fun project. I feel like I already know this bike inside and out, even before really riding it. I can't wait to see where it takes me, the places I'll explore, and how much I'll grow as a rider being on a bike that I've really tailored for me and what I want to do. I hope you've enjoyed following along. Enough talking, it's time to start riding this thing. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Make sure you download my free build guide PDF. It has everything I've put on this bike as well as a few other suggestions, and will save you looking high and low all over the internet for all of these different components. And especially with the protection, you'll end up saving a bunch of money by ordering some of the same parts that I did. I only listed the ones that have been holding up and that I'm really happy with. And if you wanted to say thank you, I would really appreciate having you subscribe or even just give this video a thumbs up or a comment. This is a brand new channel and I need a little help getting it off the ground, but I promise I'll only be bringing you the highest quality dirt bike content that I can produce. And lucky for you, I've been too busy riding this bike to sit down and edit this video until now. And as you can see, it's winter again here in BC. I ended up putting just over 50 hours on this bike this season. So if you'd like to see how it's been holding up, you can check out my 50-hour review video here. Or if you'd like to see this bike in action, I've got a good handful of riding videos already on my channel and a bunch more on the way. This is a pretty cool one where me and my buddy did a 300-kilometer loop through BC's interior. And if you can be a little patient, I've got another 350 in my basement, but this one is about 40 years older. It isn't running right now, but I'm going to be working on it this winter and hopefully bring this old girl back to life. Thanks so much for sticking around, guys. My name's Adam. We'll see you in the next one.